My name is Carl Samuelson. I'm our product manager for our Minnesota and Colorado utility work. And I'm delighted to welcome you to our thermal energy storage webinar hosted by Michaels Energy in partnership with Xcel Energy. I'm going to have our presenters introduce themselves quickly, and then I'll overview the agenda and we'll get started. So Josephine, if you want to go first.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Josephine Metoyer. I'm a Senior Strategic Energy Solutions Manager with Xcel Energy, and I run the Empower Facilities program.
And I'm Amy Hollander, also with Xcel Energy, and I'm the product manager for our new thermal storage product, and it's called Dynamic Thermal Storage, and I'll be presenting towards the end.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Stan Nabozny from Michaels Energy. I'm the Director of Thermal Energy Consulting. And when we refer to thermal energy, we're talking about cooling loads, air conditioning, and refrigeration. I've been in the field for a decade, and I'm a patent holder, and I'm excited to be here.
And I am Jeff Ihnen, CEO with Michaels Energy, and I'm going to introduce and kick off the slide deck presentation.
Great, thanks. So just a brief overview of our agenda. We're going to give you a little sense of who Michaels Energy is and what we do, and then talk big picture about this energy transition and how thermal energy storage plays into that. And then, like Amy and Josephine have said, we have, there's exciting new program offerings and content available from Xcel Energy around thermal energy storage. So for, especially for Minnesota-based facilities, this is a, great opportunity to learn about both the solutions and the incentive programs and financing available. We're going to take questions throughout this webinar. If you look at the top bar on your webinar pane, you'll see a question and answer panel. If you want to type questions in there, there might be some natural pauses during content that we can ask questions of the presenters, and we'll also try to save about 15 minutes at the end for questions. So with that, I'll pass it over to Jeff.
So I'm going to do just a quick overview of Michaels Energy. We're a veteran-owned small business. We've been in business doing energy consulting, mostly energy efficiency consulting for commercial industrial customers since 1984. I've been with the company for almost 28 years. Our purpose is minimizing waste and maximizing value, whether that's energy, labor, materials, and so forth, and or grid resources. Our values are proactive and responsive service, collaborative partnerships. We love working with Xcel Energy and its customers. Intuitive analysis, which is a great thing to have for energy efficiency and load management. And then finally, our secret sauce is fanatical execution, which simply means we do what we say we're going to do, we do it on time, we do it well. Next slide. Right now, we have just over 100 full-time staff. As of the end of October, we'll probably have about 60 engineers. So we are technically heavy on engineering. We're building in load management, experts, 87, 60 hours a year, 24/7. We deliver energy efficiency and load management demand response programs. We also evaluate them depending on the region of the country. We can't do both. So our footprint is the next slide here. Shows you where we are delivering these services. Not going to cover all of those states. Just gives you an idea of where we work. So these are some of our research and evaluation clients. These tend to be more regional. Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, which is the NEA. The NEEP is the Northeast. We do a lot of work for states: Connecticut, Maine, New York, Minnesota, Vermont, Missouri, Ohio. A lot of work for public service commissions. And then these are some of the utility clients that we deliver programs for, including, of course, Xcel Energy. And I would mention that Xcel Energy and Alliant Energy are clients of Michaels going back to the 1980s, all the way back to their operating companies, which include Northern States Power for Xcel Energy and Wisconsin Power and Light for Alliant Energy. And some of these are newer clients. And so what I wanted to cover here briefly is an intro into the thermal energy storage discussion is a little bit about regional transmission organizations and the grid as a whole. So Xcel Energy Minnesota, Wisconsin is part of MISO, Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, which balances loads and ensures there's enough resources, i.e. capacity, to keep the lights on at all times. And so that's what we're talking about today, load management and making sure we keep prices low as well from an economic perspective. This chart's a little bit busy, but what I want to point you to is the black bars are the resource levels that are needed in the coming years through 2029. So it's 2024 there in the first bar, and then all stacked bar chart all the way up to 2029. And what we're seeing is the green bars are the firm capacity or the committed capacity over that period. The yellow bars are where, our capacity that may go away during this period, and then the blue parts are, potential additions of new capacity. So what we're seeing is the reserve margins going up, and the firm capacity is dropping, which presents a risk, which is why we're here today. And as everyone probably knows, when there's extreme weather events, there are calls for curtailment, whether it's voluntary, public service announcements for, residents to raise their thermostat settings so they lower demand on the grid. There's also demand response, load management programs where customers have contracts, whether it's residential, allowing smart thermostat setup or direct load control, small commercial. There's interruptible programs for commercial and industrial, and kind of all of those programs come with some loss of service. Warmer temperatures inside a building, shutting down some manufacturing capacity possibly, or firing up standby generators to reduce load on the grid. And all those things come, with cost and some inconvenience to customers. And Stan and we'll be talking about the added services that thermal energy storage provides to customers rather than detracting services. So just a little bit on the energy transition and what's happening is, in the last decade, we've seen a lot of penetration of solar and wind onto the grid, and the marginal cost of energy production for those resources is zero. And so they tend to suppress energy prices for the wholesale energy market, which I talked about a few slides ago. And part of the result of that is it's forcing the thermal power plants, which are dispatchable, offline, out of business because they're not affordable to operate anymore. And so that's what's causing that reduced reserve margin capacity on the chart a couple slides ago. And then you add in the extreme weather events, and you get resource adequacy and outage risks and price pressure. And those three things are exactly why Xcel Energy is implementing this thermal energy storage program to increase resiliency and put a lid on price pressures, because there's economic dispatch, which helps keep prices low, and there's also emergency dispatch to keep the lights on. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stan.
Thank you, Jeff. And I'm going to talk about thermal energy storage, and think about thermal energy storage this way. It's a refrigeration battery or an air conditioning battery. And what you can do is you can actually charge that battery at night and then discharge it during the day, during the peak period when electricity is most expensive. So for those of you in data centers or with large office buildings or grocery stores or distribution centers or cold storage warehouses, this is a solution that can save you money. Okay, and so we have 68 gigawatts of distributed energy resources ready for deployment across the United States. And so the 68 gigawatts is basically 44 gigawatts of just the IARW. Those are refrigerated warehouses, and another 24 gigawatts of just office buildings, not including hospitals, not including data centers, which are a growing concern on the grid. because of the amount of load they actually create. So, the problem that Jeff mentioned was, renewables are penetrating the grid, and demand now is getting to be more and more of a problem in terms of managing it. So these sorts of resources, the distributed energy resources like thermal energy storage, can really help support the grid and actually help save customers money who are operating commercial businesses. Now, our commitment as a company, we are committed to load shifting and energy efficiency technologies. And so we're on a mission to shift gigawatts of load. You saw on the previous slide how many gigawatts there are. There's a lot out there that we can actually tackle. And we're doing it because the grid needs it. I think that in California, for example, they came very close last year to a complete outage in September around Labor Day. They were within 160 megawatts, I think, of a grid failure. And we're seeing that also in other parts of the country. In Texas, for example, we're seeing the resources that are available because of the penetration of solar and the intermittency of solar. We're seeing issues that are getting created, and there are reliability concerns at this point. And in terms of the reliability concerns, this is what is referred to as the duck curve. Many of you may not be familiar with this, but basically, California is about, I think, 40% a renewable penetration. And this is what it looks like now. And it looks like a duck. And the neck of the duck here is where there are big issues. So, for example, I was on CAISO the other day. I saw a 10 gigawatt climb in terms of demand. I saw that happen in a 10-minute period. Now, just to put that in perspective, that's 2 nuclear power plants coming online. Okay, so that is a lot of load. And what helps manage that load is having batteries. Okay, having batteries, and there are all sorts of different sizes and flavors. And we're going to be talking about the one that we have, which is thermal energy storage, which can be applied to these segments of the commercial and industrial world. Commercial and industrial frozen and refrigerated storage. This is probably the most important target because it's the lowest cost and it will save the most money. So here we're talking about 2 cents per kWh over a 20-year life, levelized cost of energy. Central plant or district chilled water cooling. This is for air conditioning. This is like 5 cents per kWh over a 20-year life, levelized cost of energy. And just to put those in comparison with lithium-ion batteries, lithium-ion, typically a front-of-the-meter storage solution, usually about 20 cents levelized cost of energy. So these behind-the-meter solutions are a lot less expensive. And with the IRA now, we have payback periods under 3 years across the country, which years ago when I was implementing, 3 years ago, it wasn't years ago, but just 3 years ago, I could not do a project in the central part of the United States. The rates were too low, and I didn't have enough incentive to actually make it work. I was looking at a 5-year payback. Now we're able to get under 3 years just about everywhere in the country. The other aspects of thermal energy storage, data centers, very important. They generate a lot of heat. And ice storage has been used in data centers since the early 2000s. A typical data center, you're talking about 40% of the load of a data center is air conditioning. So you take a 20 megawatt data center, 40% of that is air conditioning, and we can turn that off in the middle of the day when electricity prices are highest. And of course, telecom is another one, which is a passive use of thermal energy storage to keep the telecom towers operating in extreme heat. So that's another application. Now, in terms of thermal energy storage, I wanted to show you this slide, which is basically showing you the product. This is what it looks like. It's for refrigerated storage. We use these 2-inch tubes. And this is only 3 inches deep. It hides away into the rack system, and it's not in the way of the operation. So, and basically this is a salt and water combination. And what we do is we charge this at night and we discharge it during the day, during peak period. We can hold up to 8 hours Okay, so this is 8 hours of storage, and we typically install this using a pallet. My preferred method of installation is using a pallet, and we ship pallets, and these go into the top of the rack system, for example. And what we do with this is we also use wireless sensors, and we wire up the entire facility so we can sense temperatures like coil temperatures, air temperatures, the temperature of the product, the temperature of these cells. And also we use revenue grade metering so that we know what we're saving, and we can do reporting and help with doors, for example. We also measure door openings and provide operational reports to management. And so the monitoring we put in place actually helps you run your facility better. Okay, and it also helps make sure. And what we do is we do something called continuous commissioning. And what that is about is basically, keeping an eye on this every day, making sure that it's operating correctly, making sure that it charges correctly at nighttime, and ensuring that you're able to, save energy every single day. So this is not something that you use every once in a while. This is intended to be used 6 days a week, 7 days a week, and especially during the peak period. Moving on to performance. Basically, you're looking at 80% of your load being shifted. So if you have a 100,000, let me give a 150,000 square foot warehouse example. 150,000 square foot warehouse is about 1 megawatt of load. Okay, so you're going to shed at least 800 kW in a situation like that. And along with that, and this is the only product that is able to do this that I know of, and there may be other ones out there that I don't know of, but you also get an efficiency bump. In a refrigeration system only, you will get an efficiency bump because we charge at night. At nighttime, refrigeration runs more efficiently. You have the temperature drop in terms of the external ambient. You also have the compressors are typically not running at spec during the day. They're running at 70 to 80% of their capacity. At night, we're running them at spec. You're going to get maximum cooling, maximum tons of refrigeration per kW. That's the idea. And the nice thing about thermal energy storage, it keeps your temperature stable. So if you have, for example, if you're a grocery store owner, you know what happens in a small box when you open the door. Okay, so this will keep your temperatures more stable and keep the food safe. I think that's a major feature of this product. The cloud intelligence platform that we use, I'll speak just a little bit about this. Actionable intelligence. Okay, so being able to show you, for example, how many times this month was your room one, how long was that door open? Now, a lot of you may have automatic roll-up doors, but some of you have manual doors. Well, how long was that door open? You'd be surprised how long doors are open. Sometimes I've seen door openings last 8 hours. Okay, so actionable intelligence, not just information. I think that's the key thing. By using KPIs and rules, that's something that we do. And also the energy management system itself, intelligent notifications. If you're having a problem, we're going to tell you that there's a problem before it becomes a major issue. So I had a client recently in California. I sent them an alarm and they said, I don't see the problem. My temperatures are still 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything seems okay. And it was like, you got to take a look at your rack system. Your one compressor isn't operating correctly. Okay, so that's not something that you notice. Okay, you don't notice that unless you have the system to actually tell you that there's something wrong. You can wait until temperatures rise above a certain limit, but then it's too late, and then you're scrambling. So early notification is a very valuable tool. Efficiency and demand reduction. Again, we do both. This is about cost avoidance, and this is about avoiding really the peak, which is the name of this webinar. And so this is a case study. This is a 50,000 square foot facility. This is California. And a cold storage facility typically has a fairly flat demand profile. Okay, so in this particular situation, you can see what has happened. We are shedding 350 kW, and we're shedding it at $44 a kW. So this is a money saver. Okay, this will reduce your cost of operation. And there's also a little efficiency bump as well. Now, I want to clarify one thing. This is a load tool, meaning this allows you to turn off your refrigeration and save money during the peak of the day, okay, the peak period of the day. And this is easily adjustable. We can do this at any time of the day, okay? It is not an efficiency tool. Okay, it's not designed to be an efficiency tool, and I would not use it as an efficiency tool. So you get the extra bonus of 14% better refrigeration efficiency. That's great. But primarily, it is a tool for load. This is how we do it with air-conditioned buildings. So what we have here is a ice brick. The ice brick has small little bottles in it, which are little bottles that are about a ½ inch thick. They're about 12 inches long. And because of the design of this, okay, it's more efficient than any other air conditioning thermal energy storage product out there. You charge it very easily, and it has a round trip efficiency of 90%. There are other solutions out there that are big tanks of water. It takes time to charge a big tank of water. When you have phase change material thicker than 1/2 inch, what happens is it takes longer for the heat to transfer in and out. Okay, so these cells are a 1/2 inch, and as a result, this is a very, very efficient tool. This is 14 feet long by 20 inches wide by 10 inches deep. And the idea here is I can walk this through a 30-inch door. And that can be a problem with other solutions. And I can stack these. I can build a wall with these. I can stack these and build them into an amphitheater. I can put some on the roof, some in the cellar. So the issue of where do you put the thermal energy storage, these modular units actually make it a lot easier. And of course, I haven't mentioned this yet, but the IRA tax credit, 30 to 40% tax credit, really does help pull the payback period into a 3-year range, which is a great benefit. There's a grid interface here for for management and billing and centralized analytics as well, and metering and communication. So this is a nice little system to put in place for an air-conditioned building. Could be a hospital or a data center. This is what we would typically use for a data center. This is the typical load profile for a air-conditioned building. We're going to take out 8 hours of load right in the middle of the day. It depends upon what your utility bill says. We typically customize the application of this to the utility bill. Your typical office building that is a chilled water office building is about 35% HVAC. So we're taking out 35% of your load basically in the middle of the day when it really counts, when electricity prices are highest. And so in the US, again, 24 gigawatts just with air-conditioned chilled water buildings. And a chilled water building is about 21% of all the office buildings out there. Looking at data centers are 40%. HVAC is 40% of the energy load of a data center. And there's a great case study, if anybody wants to look it up, Tidal Park. It's an IT park in Asia. It's one of the largest in Asia, 1.28 million square feet. That is a very large building, and they make ice every day. And they actually turn off the cooling, the HVAC, for a 6-hour period every single day. And they've been doing that since 2006. Okay, so this is a much this doesn't use the more efficient version that I just showed you. This uses a huge tank of ice, and it reduces load, it reduces cooling costs, and it avoids diesel generation. Moving on to some other case studies. This is an interesting case study because what we find when we look at refrigeration, your very large, professionally run refrigeration operators like Americold or Lineage, they have an engineer on site, and they're very good at operating their equipment. If you go to a manufacturer or someone with smaller boxes, they're busy with logistics, they're busy with making food. I find with manufacturers, their refrigeration cycle isn't tuned very well. And there are some utilities that are actually putting measures in place right now for smaller boxes. And just tuning up a box, you can save 10% very, very easily. And that's something that we can actually do for you as well. In this particular case, we were able to take 6 defrost, which were not necessary, and turn it down into 3 defrosts and put in the thermal energy storage. And we had a 32% reduction in efficiency. Okay, now that is pretty rare in my experience. Your normal reduction is more 10 to 20%. And on top of that, of course, you get your load shift. But again, some businesses, they don't have the time to pay attention to their refrigeration cycle, and there's money to be had there. Okay, supermarkets. This is another great application. Those tubes I showed you, they go right to the ceiling of a supermarket, and you can get a 20% reduction in efficiency plus the load shift. Another case example. Solar. We can charge these. We can charge the refrigeration battery, for example, in the middle of the day. Okay, when solar is over generating. I haven't seen a utility yet that has created not an incentive, but a tariff or a rate structure that would take advantage of this. I would love to see middle of the day pricing where kW is 0. It's free, because we're over generating. We have more generation than we use at this point in certain parts of the country. And so we can take that excess generation, we can put it into a battery and then discharge at night, which we're doing here, for 12 hours. So in this business, people go home at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., we turn off the refrigeration, we hold for 12 hours. So that is possible. Going to the next slide. Let me just, I think I might have gotten a little lost here. I think we're heading towards our example installation here. Yeah, here we go. So I'm giving an example here of financials, and I think that Josephine will be speaking more about this, and also so will Amy. 150,000 square foot facility. Okay, you're going to save about $17,000 a month. Okay, now you have to look at your tax credits. Okay, so $400,000 in tax credit from the IRA. That's a 30% tax credit. Okay, a 179 tax deduction, which is your typical capital improvement tax deduction, is about $281,000. And then a really important aspect here is the Xcel Dynamic Thermal Storage Program, which I've been very high on for since I found out about it. It's probably the most innovative program in the country. The way it works, and the way most programs work, they base it on kW, or they base it on kWh, and they measure, and then you get paid based on the measurement. That's not how this works. It's based on your installation costs. So you install the system. When you your first payment would be 10%. And that would be after the installation, after they see some data that it's working, et cetera. And then you get 5% a year of the installation costs for the life of the system. So that means you would get paid 5% for 20 years. This system has a 20-year life. So I have here just the first 10% plus 2 years of 5% payments, if you will. So the total cost of the system here, a complete turnkey system, would be about $1.3 million. Net cost after taxes would be about $455,000. And so this is a 29% IRR with a 2.2-year payback. Now, best of all, we're talking about 1.7 metric tons of CO2 per day. That's the GHG savings. Okay, so these big facilities do, it takes a big bite out of our GHG issues that we have environmentally. So this is a great system to put in place.
Stan, a quick question. So this is something you do like at I'll say a level 2 kind of desktop study for customers. This is, somebody who's actually considering thermal energy storage now, right?
Yeah, so for a commercial client, we will do a free evaluation for you just to let you know, here's what you could save and here's what it does look like, et cetera. And then, if you're serious, then we come on site, we do an audit, and we would then give you a commercial price, basically. That's how we operate. And so I'm showing here on the left, the peak period. So we're taking out the 3 to 7 p.m. window in this example, and that's how you're going to save money. Okay. Let's move on to, I'm going to wrap up here with cold chain benefits. So if you operate a commercial and industrial building, we're going to improve your efficiency, but we're also going to lower your energy costs. Okay, overall, most of that cost reduction, more than half of it will come from the demand savings. The efficiency savings is also important to consider as well. You get the 30 to 40% tax credit from the government, and that's important. And plus, you have the incentive program from Xcel Energy, which is one of a kind. I really do like it. And the most important thing is this really does make a difference in terms of resiliency. Okay, so imagine this. You have a problem with your refrigeration. This will give you time to respond. I've had clients have power outages that last days. They're able to shut in their facility and maintain their temperature. I had one client that had an 18-hour outage. Okay, the utility said, sorry, I got to turn you off for 18 hours. And they did. And they maintained 0 degrees. They shut in the facility, maintained 0 degrees. So, this resiliency that you get, the temperature resiliency, is very important, and it keeps the food at a high quality as well. And we digitize the facility, so you get facility optimization, and we're able to see the cycle, the refrigeration cycle. We're able to optimize it and able to give you information about, how you're actually operating your facility. You can optimize it further as well.
So Stan, I just want to knife in
please.
here a second. So earlier I mentioned traditional load management demand response comes with some loss of service. These are the other benefits that come along with thermal energy storage that are absent with the traditional demand response.
Yep. Yeah, and this can be used with demand response. We are ADR capable, and it's best used as a permanent load shift tool. ADR is something you can potentially combine with permanent load shift. So in one utility, we are looking at a 5-hour load shift, and we're looking at 3 hours worth of DR on either side potentially, because we can do up to 8 hours of shedding here with this tool. So with that said, let me pause for questions and see what questions we might have from the audience before we move on to Amy.
Yeah, we don't have any in the chat. We could pause for just a second longer to see if anyone wants to put one in. I had one I was thinking about, Stan.
Sure.
In general, are customers able to use their existing cooling equipment in order to charge the battery?
What we do is we will work off of the existing equipment that you have. Now, we also do a few tests to figure out what kind of capacity you have. And so if you are having problems with your equipment, what we can do in a project, like for example, let's say you had an older compressor or something like that, you didn't quite have the capacity to actually do a program like this. We could actually take that compressor, replace it, make it part of the thermal energy project, and you still qualify for that 30 to 40% tax deduction.
So that's the refrigeration part. The chilled water part, that's different. Requires some system modification. In plumbing, probably new chillers that are capable of making 25-degree water.
Yeah.
So there's difference between the refrigeration and chilled water.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is more of a mechanical system. It's a little more expensive too. It's like I said, 2 cents per kWh versus 5 in terms of levelized cost of energy. But the system does allow you to shift load to nighttime, and it does save a lot of money. And if there are no questions, and there may be questions coming, Carl, do you see any questions yet?
No, nothing yet. So I think we can keep going with Amy.
Carl, I noticed on my screen that the chat is turned off. I'm unable to enter anything in the chat, so that might be.
The chat is.
We may have to circle back around to get some of your questions answered. So.
Does the Q&A function work for people?
Yes, it should. So, Amy, there are two functions here: chat and Q&A. So, the Q&A is enabled.
Yes.
Brownie points to anyone listening who wants to send in a question, so we make sure we're receiving your questions. So.
Okay, so Amy, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Yeah, hi, Amy Hollander, Program Manager from Xcel Energy. And David Poterson is our product developer. He's not able to present today, but he's been working on this for a while, and we finally got the application up on our website. And I can, when I'm finished, I'll put our website in the Q&A. You can go ahead and move to the next slide. So pretty much as what has been already discussed, we can we can incentivize thermal storage for anything from a small walk-in freezer at a restaurant or a facility to a large refrigerated warehouse size to a large commercial building. So this product, we will incentivize small to large. Next slide. So what you've heard from Stan and others is that the essence of thermal storage is you're going to be chilling and then you're going to be curtailing. And I think if I was going to do the slide over, I would start at the bottom where you're charging. And Xcel Energy is only going to require charging over a 4-hour block overnight, as well as the discharging or the curtailment will always be a 4-hour block. That is all that the product is requiring in order for you to get the incentive. So the reason it's called, if you could go back just 1 second, because I just want to talk about the quarterly. As you can see on this slide, it is broken down into 4 quarters. And the reason we call this product dynamic thermal storage is because every quarter we will ask the customer to slightly shift the hours of curtailment. In other words, the hours that they're going to be discharging their thermal product. We really don't think that it's going to change drastically, maybe by an hour or two, depending on the season of the year. And also, we are going to be giving you a 30-day leeway or a 30-day notice as to when those hours will change. And it is even possible that we will not change the hours, possibly between, Q2 and Q3. But the idea is that you only have to curtail for 4 hours, which is going to be really easy, especially if your product has the ability to curtail for 8 hours, which is a real possibility. Okay, next slide. So as Stan mentioned, we are not incentivizing on a kilowatt hour basis. We are providing a 10% of your project cost as a check issued to your company or to the customer. It is that easy. And this is really going to help with your installation cost. Then after you have curtailed your load for 4 hours, and by the way, that's a Monday through Friday, non-holiday weekday, what we are going to be monitoring for this. And at the end of the year, we will be giving you 5% of your project installation cost at the end of every year. So again, we're not going to be measuring your KW or your KWH savings. However, you may see the incentives, come to you in different ways if you're on a peak rate. So this is a pilot, and it's going to be a pilot until the end of 2024, and then we're going to file it as a regular product. And because the state of Minnesota is on board with this product, we are 95% positive that it will go through as advertised here. And I don't want anyone to think that this is a short product. I have faith that it's going to be a very long 5% incentive after the installation incentive is delivered. And I forgot to mention in the beginning that what I'm talking about today is just for the state of Minnesota. However, if you are a trade partner or a customer in another state, you are welcome to submit any thermal storage product under the custom analysis, and there will be some type of incentive. It is probably not going to be exactly like this, but it will be similar. Next slide. So this slide is just showing how the process, first you're going to contact your account manager. He or she will direct you to fill out the application, which is now on our website. After that, the Xcel engineering staff will complete an analysis. And the product does have to be cost effective. We're not going to incentivize kind of a wacky nonsense project. We're going to be doing something that makes sense. So we just want to verify that it is going to pay back. And as you've seen demonstrated, the payback is often within 2 years, probably less than 3 years. So they do an analysis, and you would receive a letter stating that it's approved. And then we're going to have to do some measurement of your load so that we can measure the difference between pre-installation and post-installation, just to make sure that we're seeing the difference. So then the customer installs the system, that's on the blue, and then up to the purple. We do post-installation measurement and verification, and then after we do that, then you'll receive the 10% of your installation cost paid by check. Next slide. That's the installation piece. So the post-installation starts with the orange bubble that the system's installed. Then we go to the yellow phase, where a new schedule is sent to the customer 30 days prior to the start of the new quarter. Then the customer sets its controls to comply with this, again, for only 4 hours would be necessary. So the M&V is performed randomly on, selected days by Xcel Energy every quarter. And what this is going to be looking for is showing that the load shifting is working. We're not going to be measuring. We just need to see that your load is dropping during the curtailment. If this is done during all 4 quarters of the year, the 5% annual incentive will be paid probably at the end of the year. It's possible it may not be paid until the beginning of January, but we think we're going to get it done within the same year that you've curtailed, which isn't, may matter to some customers or not. And then we are going to do a little bit of measurement and verification regarding the annual cost effectiveness. So that is the product. And I think the big takeaway is it's only 4 hours of load shifting required. We will be monitoring randomly by a third-party evaluator. It is going to be very cost effective. On top of the incentives that Xcel gives, you of course would be entitled to any local or federal incentives that are from the, for example, from the Inflation Reduction Act. I think I covered everything. I think the only thing I did not mention is that the annual check comes as a bill credit, not as a check. So the installation cost is reimbursed as a check, but everything else will be a bill credit on an annual basis.
Amy, there was one question for you. This is from Jeff. So how many days a week is curtailment observed by Xcel Energy?
5 days a week, unless there's a holiday, Monday through Friday. Good question. Those 2 slides that are kind of like this, I think it's a little hard to follow, but the point of those slides is that we will be doing the measurement by a third-party contractor who will determine if there is load shifting going on. And we do want to see all 4 quarters. We want to see compliance in all 4 quarters. However, customers can work with me and their account manager if they have a few weeks or a week where they simply cannot shed load. Maybe there's a problem or an unusual product that they move in that doesn't, allow for that, or we are going to be flexible with communication, but with the hope, the idea is that the customer would shift every single week, Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm. Josephine, if you are ready to present.
I am. And I'm going to go quickly because we want to leave enough time for the audience to ask some questions. So I'm Josephine. I go by Joe. So if you hear out in the field somebody refers to Joe from Xcel and Power Facilities, that is me. And I'm really excited to present this program. I love this program. It's a brand new program for Xcel. We rolled it out in Minnesota first, and we are getting ready to roll it out in Colorado. Both of these states, we've gone through the Public Utility Commission, so it is a regulated program, which creates a very standalone program. There's not another utility company out there or any other vendor out there that's offering an as-a-service as a regulated program. And that's exactly what this is. And Power Facilities is basically an as-a-service. So what does that mean to you? Well, first off, I like to go into the why. Why did Xcel create this for our customers? Very simple. We've been going out for years, and customers have been engaging in different programs. And some of you have maybe engaged in those programs with our engineers going out, and they're assessing buildings, and they're giving recommendations on what to do to reduce, to make your facilities more efficient and reduce that demand. Many times there's incentives behind that. We increase the rebate incentive if you get that done within a year. And what happens to those reports? They go and they sit on shelves. Not because our customers don't want to do it, it's because we found barriers. The biggest barrier is the capital. These capital projects, while it's great, we all want more efficient facilities, but it costs money. And the capital funding, there's a big gap across. I mean, it's not just isolated in Minnesota or Colorado with our customers, it's across the nation. And then there's a lack of technical expertise, resources. When I'm out in the field, I hear it all the time. In fact, I heard it this morning. I was with a customer and we were talking about our rebates, because under this program, we're able to help optimize those rebates and make sure that our customers are getting those rebates that we have to offer. And he said, it's just me. I don't have, we're losing our resources internally. We don't have the admin staff like we used to because we had to make cuts. So this program is really good with that as well. Just optimizing those rebates. Lack of resources is what we're seeing with our customers. And then the project complexity, because these efficiency projects, they are complex. So this is a turnkey behind the meter program. What we offer with Empower Facilities is we offer the funding upfront so our customers don't have to do a capital outlay. We offer the development, the implementation, and then we're also going to service that equipment through the life of the agreement. And as a service, we're calling it a technology subscription. It is always, the beauty of it is taking that risk off the customer and completely putting it back on Xcel through the life of the agreement. Another piece that makes us very unique is we're allowing on-bill pay with this. So the project is actually paid on bill. We are always looking at a project to pay for itself with a cash flow, and that's what we're seeing many times that works. But the beauty is it's on bill pay. Go ahead, Stan. So this is what it looks like. And to Stan's point, early on, you saw a graph like this. So this is an example. This is a case study that we had a customer. This is a company, it's a manufacturing company. And this is for lighting, heating, and cooling system. The improvements, it looked like it was a $2.7 million avoided CapEx spend. There was a 45% reduction in lighting consumption and eliminating the maintenance efforts and providing $90,000 of net annual cash flow benefit. So if you look at the graph, it's basically telling you before Empower facilities, during the Empower facility agreement, you're looking at a $90,000 cash flow. And at the end, that project not only paid for itself, but you're still seeing that cash flow. A lot of people say, well, this is like a performance-based contract. It looks like it smells like it, but it really isn't, because what we're doing is we're doing a functionality guarantee. So there is no M&V with our projects, which is a cost all in itself. We know that if we do an efficiency play, you're going to save money. You're going to reduce your utility. So we do a functionality guarantee. What that means to our customers within that 7 to 10 year agreement, if your equipment is not functioning, and we have the agreement states very specifically our timeline on when we address that. If it's not addressed, our customers don't pay. So it truly is a functional guarantee, which then helps create that as an OpEx versus a CapEx.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really, I want to leave time for questions. I'm working with my account managers. So if you are interested in this, reach out to your account manager. You can reach out directly to me, but we're working hand in hand.
And I just want to underscore something, Josephine. This is like the first program of its type in the country. And I think Xcel is really showing some leadership here. And so this is a great program to get involved with. So I just wanted to underscore that. And turning a CapEx project into an OpEx payment, I think that's, and doing it on bill, that's actually quite advanced in my opinion.
And the fact that it's regulated, and that's what really separates it completely.
Absolutely. Yes. Mm. So Carl, I think we're ready for questions.
Yeah, I haven't seen any come in. If I could ask a question, maybe Josephine, you could talk about how a customer would pursue a thermal energy storage project under the Empower Facilities program.
So if there's a capital outlay for that, that is something that we would work with it. If Stan is doing the studies, we'd like to be at the table early on if we know that there's going to be a concern on how are you going to get that capital. And we could start those conversations early on to see if it truly is a fit.
Yeah, if I could add something to that, Carl, I think the process here for a commercial client, you reach out, we give you the upfront initial estimate of what it looks like, and then you can decide if it's something that you want to pursue or not. Then we get into the detail of doing a survey and going on site, which Xcel will help pay for, and also that's when Xcel would get involved in actually getting the Empower Facilities program involved, actually getting the dynamic thermal storage program involved as well. And then you get a commercial price, and then you get to decide, move forward or not. And if you do, of course, you can finance it yourself if you would like, or you can do it on bill through the Empower program. That is a choice, of course, that you have. So that's what the process would look like. A typical thermal energy storage project, it's about 120 days, once we have a contract to actually implement one.
We did just have a question come in. The question is, can tax-exempt organizations like cities, hospitals, universities, et cetera, receive federal or state tax credits?
Yes, and and I do not know how to do this, but if you are a not-for-profit company, you can file for the tax credit and you get a check from the government, not a tax credit. Okay, a commercial business gets a tax credit. You as an organization will get a check from the government. So yes, you do qualify for it.
And as I understand it, that's new under the IRA.
That's right.
179D guidance. So that is quite new.
That is new, right?
Effective this year, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Josephine, I have a
Amazing.
question. Is there a minimum? Well, I'm sure there's a minimum size requirement or a sweet spot for the Empower program as far as CapEx dollars go.
So I know we get that question asked a lot. And right now, we don't have a sweet spot. So we're looking at projects, 40,000, 50,000 and up.
Okay. Nice,
Mhm.
nice, cool.
Josephine, another question came in for you here. What is the long-term benefit to Xcel of the Empower Facilities program? It appears that after 7 years, Xcel would be losing revenue from lower energy use. But there must be some other value there.
So that's just it. I know that was a learning curve for me too, coming from utility, because I came from the ESCO world, right? What is the long-term benefit? Well, we make commitments to the state every year to reduce our demand. So we've made promises. That's how we get incentivized. It costs us more money. I always say it costs a lot more money to support a kilowatt for a utility company than a 0 watt. So our goal is to reduce the demand of our commercial customers, and it's all for the future. As we all know where that future is going, that is in our best interest. So it does us no good if we are not helping our customers get as efficient as possible before we go into all these renewables and resiliency and all that great stuff, right?
We got 1 more minute if anyone else has any questions. Otherwise, I'm watching the chat here for a second. Otherwise, we'll wrap up on time. So just commented. Yeah, great. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for attending, and thanks to our presenters. We'll send a follow-up email, correct, Stan, after this, with the webinar recording and presentation deck and contact information, so anyone can get a hold of us if they want to talk offline, get more detail.
Sounds great. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Take care.
Yes, thanks everyone.